Welcome back to Absolute Nianema, where I am not going to be doing my usual spiel because I have a rhetorical question to ask audience. Remember when my PC broke back in autumn? While it ended up being a productive time for me in terms of writing, as I was able to get the groundwork done from multiple Arknights videos that you have seen, and some that haven't reached fruition yet, it was also a dark one for my Arknights account. First, I max leveled an M9 Huliak, who became my third wife alongside Shu and Mumu. Then I M9 Clownslayer with max level as well before they announced a fate altering module Y. But then I did the worst thing of them all. I E2'd Tsukinogi, who then turned me into the worst type of person of all, an Abjurers fan. I mean, I was already cursed to this fate after all. I mean, it's what I deserve for my stubborn insistence to not raise my Logos, my Serta, or any of my good non-gimmicky operators. As of right now, I have almost all the Abjurers done and built. Yes, even Xingzhu, who's competing for the bottom 10 spot alongside my beloved Tsukinogi, and I kind of want to sit down and talk about them because just like the Tacticians miniseries, I think they are neat, and I want to share them with you today. So, welcome to my show and tell about Abjurers, the Hipster Incantation. And yes, before you ask, this is an episode of Absolute Nianema, technically, because of Nine Colored Deer being a film collab unit. And hear me out, Silence Habitat skin is an in-world inspired by a actual actor's drip, so it's very on brand for the series. So what makes an Abjurer an Abjurer? Well, on paper they seem like Incarnation Medics with Hex range. There's two things that will set them apart from these two classes. First, they don't attack to heal, rather they enter a healing mode where they heal allies in their range over attacking enemies when their skill is active. And secondary, they all focus on passively applying the Sanctuary buff through their talents. For those who don't know, Sanctuary is a form of damage reduction and is quite valuable as it does stack on top of pre-existing defense and res stats. Calculating how much it reduces for those stats is beyond me, but Sanctuary is an incredibly powerful buff when faced with high damage scenarios. Unfortunately, it's not as special anymore because while in the old days it was only applicable via Blade's module, trait upgrades, and Abjurers, it has found its way into Crusher kits who need it anyway, sure, but also into the kits of my beloved Vice who just does it better. Like with Mod 3, she's applying a 15% Sanctuary, which also has a very strong passive heal attached to it, and unlike most buffs, Sanctuary doesn't stack. It will always only apply the strongest instance of Sanctuary, and while Abjurers can apply the stronger instance against Shu, unless Shu is using her S2, well, medics like Ayaberry, Nightingale, and Reed provide better HPS and do aspects of the subclass better. There's a reason why the Mod X for Abjurers is dedicated to upgrading their healing capabilities, because without it, not even the Sanctuary buff would justify the usage of them. Basically, what I'm saying is the entire Abjurer subclass got outmodeled by medics and a farmer. Not even bards have it this bad, but to be fair, they got hard carried by Skadi and Silverlight. There's a reason why 3 of the 5 current global only Abjurer members are welfares, and they're one of the few classes that actually got a direct buff. They just aren't popular or worth building until at least Ato happens for us, not that kind of Ato. That said, I think with Silence's second module, they have found a path forward for the class, and Haruka has kind of nullified all the problems I highlighted so far. Anyway, I want to be the one, will be one of the first to champion them before the idol comes out and changes everyone's mind. So let's do that. This is a show and tell, so I'm going to show you and tell you about how Tsukinogi made me like this class. Yes, I know. It's weird the worst member of this class convinced me to become Abjurers fan. And yes, I do consider Xingzhu to be better than her. We'll get to that. By now, I want to talk about why, despite Abjurers being as neat as they are, you shouldn't be building Tsukinogi, because I think she makes a very bad first impression as she embodies all the flaws of the archetype. Honestly, the only redeeming parts of her is her Christmas skin, which is honestly fucking beautiful, and her talent. Her talent applies 18% Sanctuary to allies below 40% HP, which doesn't seem useful, But applying Sanctuary then is very much a life-saving move, as it lets Tsukinogi go swing in with her skills and apply some healing, or you could just be a sensible person and use the second deployment slot on a medic who can do that part for you. Her Modex talent upgrades further plays into this by attaching a defense bonus to the Sanctuary buff, but it's only 8% and mod free, so not really worth it. And since we're focusing on her failings now, we need to talk about her skills. Before we even talk about what they do, we can point out the biggest flaws in her kit, which is her SP cost, because those are ridiculous for an Abjurer. You see, Abjurers are heavily reliant on their skills, as it enables their healing mode, as they can only heal allies while their skill is active. In fact, that's what makes me like Abjurers so much, this sort of playstyle that makes them more active compared to normal medics. While medics heal all the time with skills modifying their healing powers, the fact that Abjurers can only heal while their skills are active adds more challenge to the gameplay, because now you have to choose when you want to heal or when you want the extra DPS. It's a neat dynamic challenge that only Abjurers can add to the gameplay, and due to the nature of this gameplay, it benefits best from skills with short downtime between activations, something Tsukinogi doesn't do at all. Like, seriously, 50-second cooldowns on skill level 7 for these skills are terrible, especially for S2, who has a pitiful uptime in comparison. Abjurers as a group prefer short downtimes with high uptimes to make their healing feel more impactful. I don't know why they gave her such long downtime like this, especially considering her skills aren't even that good to begin with. Her S1 is a Y, like all it does is apply dodge and reveal invisible enemies, and we know how much of a mean dodge chance is. The invisible reveal is a neat niche though, and I wouldn't recommend building it for that, since Scene is right there, you can do that job better for you if you want a shit unit that does that. Also, I guess Inez, but on this channel, we maintain a very strong anti-agent agenda. So fuck you, Inez. Anyway, S2 on the other hand is closer to usable as it increases the Sanctuary HP threshold while also strengthening the Sanctuary, although at skill level 7, it is a mere 55% threshold and doubles Sanctuary to 36%, which is nothing to scoff at for sure, but like Science can do this passively with both her talents. Not only that, 9-colored Deer with mod 3 permanently increases her HP threshold Sanctuary higher than the skill level 7 version of this skill by 5%. Basically, don't be like me and get drawn in by the hot Deer Miko. She's the worst member of her archetype for a good reason, and there's very little redemption for her. Escape this fate, audience. Well, this just feels cool. First we punched Tsukinogi in the gut, and now we're dragging out the better version of her to show off. 9-colored Deer, or as I will be calling her for the rest of this video, Deer, is strictly better Tsukinogi, as a welfare no less. Her talent is on the level as a full pot Tsukinogi with the same HP threshold and 20% Sanctuary. Her mod 3 also kicks Tsukinogi while she's down by making her Sanctuary 26% and upping the threshold to 60%, although that doesn't matter with DS2 in mind. Also, slightly better SP cost on both skills, and you don't need you don't even need the mastery then to make them get the SP cost even lower, no less. How nice of them to make the limited time welfare this good, so I can further be jealous that I wasn't around for her runs. Due to her nature as a limited time welfare, I'm not going to spend much time on her, as what's the point of trying to sell new players on a welfare they can't acquire, and older players who have already built for an amazing base skill, unless Hyperglyph want to be real nice and leave on her again next year. Like, pretty please, Hyperglyph, I won't slander your next Abjure if you do that for me. Okay, maybe the one after her. Oh yeah, her skills are pretty neat. Her S1 is a very generic attack boost, which of course only modifies her healing power, so just think of it as a variation on the class generic skill. Her S2 is her real selling point. Not only does it make her Sanctuary unconditional, but also buffs her already higher than normal attack speed, which also gives her range physical resist. Let's talk about the attack speed first, because that's another thing that makes Abjurers interesting, is that As a class, they prefer attack speed buffs for their healing, which is definitely another thing that sets them apart from other medics that isn't Incarnation medic. Basically, they choose to heal faster over stronger heals, which the class does lean into a lot of their skills, which we'll see once again moving on to the next two 5-star Abjurers. As for the physical resist, it's a weird one. First, why is it physical resist instead of a defense modifier? Were you guys worried about making bubble god tier, or was it because you wanted to make it hyper-specific to reducing ranged physical damage? Like, why is this specific for no reason? Is this supposed to be like a reference to the original Buddha's tale? Not like this matters, considering the skill is actually quite good. Being able to apply unconditional 20% sanctuary or 26% if you get her module is quite amazing for 15-second uptime. Although do yourself a favor and hit its M1 breakpoint, as it makes it a 20-second uptime. Honestly, I don't mind the fact that it's a 40 SP cost skill because the skill is good enough to justify it. Just a shame she's crossover limited, so not many new players can experience her. Thankfully, we do have another Abjurer that newer players can get. Quercus, the other 5-star Abjurer that had the pleasure of being on banner and unlike Tsukinogi, actually makes a good first impression. There's a reason why she was the most popular member of the class, and it's not because of how cute she is. Like, fuck, I wish I could squish her little cheeks so badly. But no, she's good because of her ease of use compared to other Abjurers, while still giving her a unique niche that sets her apart from other medic options. Honestly, my only problems with her is her form of applying Sanctuary and the fact that she's a Mod X user. Let's focus on those downsides first, because her upsides easily outweigh them anyway. Focusing on her talent first, it applies a 14% Sanctuary to allies above 70% HP. Yes, I said above, and while I think the idea is to prevent taking huge damage and try to keep units above the threshold, I don't think that's a good idea. Like, she is still my most used Abjure in IS, at least, despite this fact, so I'm leaning on being wrong on this opinion, but yeah, just never really sat right with me. As for her mod X, it moves her sanctuary to a 16% with mod 3, and lowering the threshold to 60%, which is solid enough, but considering neither of the skills focus on modifying her sanctuary numbers, I would love to see the sanctuary be a little higher on the module, although to be fair, my biggest gripe with her is the fact that she's stuck with mod X. Once I started to familiarize myself with this class, I learned to hate what mod X represents. You see, when Abjurers enter their healing mode, they actually take a 25% healing penalty, only healing at 75% efficiency. This is why a lot of Abjurers focus on attack speed as a modifying stat, as it would help make up for that penalty. Mod X, though, aims to fix that by removing that penalty as its trait upgrade, and very much like the Splashcaster's Mod X giving them an extra tile range, this is completely and utterly worthless. While it's good on paper, if you spend any time with the class, you realize that this is a solution looking for a problem. The class never had a problem with healing, but the class was never popular either, so whoop you blimey, let's try to make them more in line with medics instead of focusing on what makes them unique from medics. This is why I'm so excited for Mod Y, as it feels like an actual solution as it plays well into the class's preference for playing with attack speed as a modifier. It gives them an identity separate from medics at last, which I'm glad for. Just a shame it came with Science's second module at 6 Annie, as basically 2 of the 4 5-star Abjurers would love to have it. The exceptions being Tsukinogi, because Mod Y would never fix her problems, and Xingzhu, who we will talk about next. This leaves us with Dia and Quercus, and if there was ever a need for a case about giving non-6 stars second modules, Quercus is easily the strongest case for it. Look, Quercus isn't bad at all, she's actually quite good. It's just, once you read her skills, you realize how much she would benefit from Mod Y's trait upgrade. Like, let's take S1 for example. It's basically a skill that turns her into a single target medic that provides Sanctuary. While I don't like this skill, as I feel like it turns off the interesting part of Abjurers, which is the mode switching, it does make her more newbie friendly, and there is going to be situations where you want the Sanctuary on top of a constant healing, so Quercus S1 fits into that niche perfectly. For my money though, as someone who wants to play into her niche, her S2 is my go-to skill, where it gives you an attack speed boost once again, but also gives her, well, the ability to give 1 SP per heal. That's right, her S2 makes her into a discount Warfarin, although to be fair to Quercus, I like this skill way more than Warfarin in general. Yes, Warfarin can supply more SP than Quercus, but Quercus also removes the 2 restrictions of the skill, which is the death of enemies in range and the randomness of the skill. Pair this with the, well, a very frankly nice low SP cost and the attack speed buff, and she becomes a solid alternative to Warfarin or SP batteries in general. Hopefully by now though, you can see why Mod Y would be good on her. It would push Quercus from being a good healing operator with a Sanctuary niche to an excellent operator with 2 skills that would give her a unique niche over other medics. They probably won't do it, but honestly Hyperglyph, you should consider giving her the Module Y. It's like, seriously. You may have heard of Xingzhu, the welfare for the U event, mainly because of people doom posting how useless she is, which is completely justified. I mean, Jesus Christ, why is her S2 like that? But fortunately, Xingzhu has me in her corner, and if my track record with Vigil is anything to go by, I can redeem any operator, and I'm here to tell you that yes, Xingzhu is usable. It's just that she doesn't really lean into the Abjurer thing. She does have the Sanctuary talent, but apart from that, she doesn't really fit the traditional mold for an Abjurer. In fact, she feels more like a limit test for the Mod X module, while also being a test case for the Mod Y trait upgrade. In fact, I would say Xingzhu is the most important Abjurer of the class, which is why I'm very fond of her. But before we talk about her good points, we do need to integrate her bad points, like her talent to begin with. It was very nice of you to remove the HP threshold for Sanctuary, but why is it the lowest in the Abjurer lineup and restricted to 2 possibly random allies? Like, presuming max pot stats because she's a welfare, and you should always max pot your welfares, especially when they are Blaze's hag sister. She provides a mere 12% sanctuary. Sure, it has no strings attached, but why is it so fucking tiny? Especially when compared to Shu and Deer and yes, I know it's unfair to bring my rice wife into this, but she's arrayed up on the same event banner as Xingzhu, so players will most likely have gotten her and using her to outmog Xingzhu. Not even her mod 3 can save her from this because even with the improved talent, she only hits 17% sanctuary. And yes, we do not only get outmogged by Shu again. Well, look, it's so fucking bad in fact. Shu has planted Xingzhu so she can grow anew. Thankfully for Hagzu, I like hags, so I'm willing to help her out, as much as it goes against every fiber of my being to defy a tactical breakfast take. But first, we need to have a nice long talk about her S2. Like, okay, you got the attack speed buff. That's good. We can heal 2 targets as well. How nice of you to prototype the new mod Y, so thank you for doing that. And you can play a strong passive heal to only your sanctuary targets, which is weird, but okay. Overall, good skill. Just a shame it's a whopping 78 SP cost at skill level 7, going as low as 75 with M3. Did we not learn anything from Tsukinogi about the importance of low skill downtimes? I don't care if it has a 30-second uptime at M3, that is still a massively unreasonable cost. Abjurers is, as a class, live or die on these short cooldowns, something we nailed with the last 3 additions to the class before her, so why did we backtrack to this? Between this and her talent, she has earned the clowning she got, but there is redemption for her, and it's in her S1. It's basically a very powerful AoE healing nuke on a very good downtime. At skill level 7, it's only an 11-second cooldown, and chasing the M3 makes it 10, which isn't a big improvement, but worth it for the 330% modifier. S1 is a genuinely amazing skill, and it gives her a reason to be invested in, or at least her mod 1 to remove the 25% class penalty on it. Yes, it just takes about under 1.7k heal, and yes, Pure Stream does a better job better. Well, does the job better, but I'm still going to give Xingzhu the win here, still because of Sanctuary, and she's the combo of a DPS and a healer. You might hate Vol Compression, but I don't, and this is my video. I also like how refreshing it is, because it feels like a new take on Abjurers. Instead of focusing on balancing out both identities, we're just making her more of a caster with a heal nuke, which is more player-friendly playstyle compared to her contemporaries not named Quercus. I think despite her bottom 10 status, players should invest in her because that S1 is amazing and they honestly should build her if they need an Abjurer and have no access to Quercus. Well, this proposal is only valid until they either V1 Dia or our next Abjurer gets her record restoration. If I can have a rant, I want to rant about this analysis on Xingzhu, because as much as it makes me want to vomit in my mouth to defy the man whose write-ups I look forward to every event, I just really disagree with his take here. And just like how I disagreed with his bigger take, I can't fucking listen to this Xingzhu slander. Nor can I say it to his face, so I'm just going to be using my safe space once again to, dissect this. I encourage you to pause the video and read his take because I genuinely love his writings and I think his takes are normally valid. It's just Xingzhu isn't as bad as he lets on, and I want to defend her. In fact, most of this section has defended her already, so I want to address the one that got to me the most. That Quercus was when Abjurers were figured out, and I disagree with this because if you couldn't tell by how I started the Xingzhu segment, I am actually going to add more to my Quercus section here because I do like Quercus. It's just I always viewed her as not them sorting out a path for Abjurers, but as an admission defeat, just like Mod X was. I still think Quercus is an essential part of the Abjurers class growth and is a valuable member due to her ease of use, making her more accessible to players, but she did so by conforming to the archetypes she was supposed to be the alternative to, especially since a lot of people mainly just use her for S1, which just makes her a single target medic with weird range. The reason why I don't like her is, well, she's the Act 2. If I'm to use storytelling terms, like the pretentious fuckhead writer like I am, Quercus was the Act 2 low point, the necessary loss before our protagonist can grow. As I see it, Xingzhu is the actual important step, and it's because of her skills. Her S2 is the prototype for the Mod Y, which I think is the most important part of the Abjurer's future as it helps them form an identity beyond their mode switching gimmick. Not only that, I think her S1 will be the foundation of Abjurer's skill design, as is an evolution of the mode switching gimmick. If what makes a good Abjurer skill is low downtime, then that means we either have to go with the unrealistic path of equally low uptime, or condense their healing into short bursts and focus more on the DPS half, as the alternative is just unrealistically unbalanced. To return to my analogy, Xingzhu is the training arc. It's not that interesting and might even be terribly boring, but an important step in the process. And Mod Y is just a glimpse of the results of this arc before we got the end result in the upcoming summer event. Still, even if you don't like Xingzhu, and I didn't even convince you to like her, I still think it's important to understand and respect what she did for the class. She is heavily flawed, but she's also the most important member of the class due to what she represents, the necessary loss for the class's growth.
Progress only shows at the scars, decorates me with permanent marks.
Science the Paramedic is the archetype's only 6-star member on Global as of recording, and is a welfare no less, which is normally a death sentence for the class. As it was for hookmasters and therapists, getting your first 6-star as a welfare is a formality that gives Hyperglyph a reason to give your class a module before relegating the class to 5-star or lower status. Of course, it's not all bad. Gladiator is an amazing operator even outside of her Abyssal Hunter squad, and Lumen is a top tier medic. Science is the same, although very much like Abjurers in general, she's somewhat niche. She's definitely designed for advanced content in mind, and any player who actually has her built are using her for her SV because it is amazing when you need it. But I'm interested in talking about using it in a general use. So let's talk about her Sanctuary talent, which is arguably the best application of it in the class. If we're just looking at a design perspective, as I'm going to say it, I know it's paradigmatic, but it's a stupid ass mouthful, and so I'm going to go with paradigmatic because it makes more sense and doesn't cause a 6-lane pile up in my mouth. Moving on. Her first talent, Silent Sentinel, applies Sanctuary to all allies at 10%, which is small, yes, but it actually scales as an ally loses health, capping at 24% when below 30% HP. I actually really like this skill because it's an interesting way to apply Sanctuary while still having a restriction, as it should be. Shu, unconditional Sanctuary for multiple targets isn't right, Shu, nor should we provide such a strong passive healing for free. On top of that, Shu, it's fine though, I still love my Vice Wife. Still, I think this is a really cool talent, especially seeing it can reach just 2% less than Dia's ratio without needing her module or a skill to remove the threshold. It also works well with her second talent, Plumes of Plenty. Using her full pot numbers because welfare, Silence will passively heal allies in her range who are under 50% max HP every second, and this heal is equivalent to 6% of her attack. This effect is doubled for Vine Slab operators though, because faction synergy is a fun gimmick and encourages fans of the faction to play a niche knights with them. And yes, I am saying this as a niche knights fanatic. Tangent aside, Plumes of Plenty has great synergy with Silent Sentinel, as it kind of just gives her a kind of nerfed version of Shu's Sanctuary, where the constant healing acts as a secondary layer of Sanctuary. It is a shame that it's capped at 50% HP, but Silence doesn't have the same privileges as a limited unit. Okay, that's a final stab I'll make at my Vice Wife, but these two talents do have this nice synergy thing going, and I love it. But we need to talk about both her modules, since both Mod X and Mod Y affect Plumes of Plenty and not Silent Sentinel, probably out of fear that Night Basher would actually perform better than a Cultivator. Now, presuming mods free for both modules, Mod X increases the max HP of allies by 10% and increases the passive heal by 2%, meaning with full pot, it's an 8% heal per a second. Mod Y, on the other hand, provides a 50% barrier equal to a max HP to allies when they dip below 50% for the first time. Now, putting aside my bias for what the Mod Y trait upgrade does for the archetype, especially for Silence, you want to build Mod X? Yes, I love Mod Y, and her providing a barrier is amazing and very thematic for the kit, but Mod X is just better value. Not even counting that it's doubled for Vine's Lab fans. X just gives you more wiggle room for Sanctuary and Heal Threshold to work with, which I think is amazing. Putting back in my bias, build Y, the trait upgrade is why I would bring Silence Alter anyway over Medic, and I would only see myself using X if I want to play Vine's Lab because, it's a free 20% HP and a 16% heal for them. So basically, if you want to use an Abjurer and not a Medic that provides Sanctuary, use Mod Y. Or you can be reasonable and use Mod X and just be fucking boring. Skipping to S2 because S1 is generic as hell, Overlooking Vision leans into the attack speed modifier the class loves, which is, yes, another win for Mod Y. But also makes it interesting is that during the skill duration, you can deploy Night Banisher. What makes Night Banisher interesting is that all it does is apply Silent Sentinel in a 3x3 area around it, but also multiplies the talents ratio just for Night Banisher, which is so wild to me. Like, first, why does the multiplier apply to Silence's version of the talent as well? Like, second of all, why does it only apply Sanctuary with no heal, which is weird to me. Like, don't get me wrong, Nightmare is obscenely powerful with that multiplier. At skill level 7 is a 2.4 times modifier, so at its lowest point is applying a 24% Sanctuary, while at its max, it's a 58% Sanctuary if you round up. M3 is even better as it applies a 30% Sanctuary at its lowest and a 72% Sanctuary at its max. At M3, it's applying the highest amount of Sanctuary you can reach on an Abjurer if at the high end of its scaling. For comparison, the next highest Sanctuary you can hit on global right now is a mod 3 max pot S2 M3 Tsukinogi who gets 55%. That's right, Tsukinogi gets outdone by a fucking robot who can't even heal. Anyway, despite the impressive numbers, it's still weird that it can't heal in any way or even apply Plumes of Plenty. It would be like a nice nod to like the original science, but okay, I'll just take obscenely high sanctuary ratios because, well, let's be honest, who the fucking cares if Night Basher doesn't heal? There's nothing stopping you from using like a second healer for that coverage anyway. That said, I wouldn't recommend employing the skill unless you see yourself using science frequently. I do think science is an M6 worthy unit, but if you're only going to be looking to use her for her niche, she only needs an M3, and the M3 should be on her S3. Does S3 need an introduction? Like, I feel like we all know about Dreadnought Protocol and why it's good despite being niche. For those not in the loop, all you need to know is that it applies Spectre S2 to the first unit that dies in Silence's range. There's more to this skill that makes it good, but people basically use SV as an ambulance for squishy boss killers, and it's exceptional at that, and 100% needs an M3. An M3 is a 10-second undying status with 30 SP cost, giving it a low enough downtime for arguably both phases of a boss. M3 unfortunately does nothing else for this skill though. Between skill level 7 and M3, Science gives us her Sanctuary a 1.8 multiplier, while also giving her a mere 30% attack, which altogether is quite solid actually, especially with the flat 60% second uptime. The only thing that holds it back in this aspect, aside from, a MM3 that only adds to the Undying status part of the skill, is the fact that you can only activate it twice per mission, which is fair, I guess. I mean, unlimited applications of Undying with no drawbacks is busted, so I really can't complain here. So what did we learn about Silence? Well, she has a really weird kit, which is obvious since everyone knows that Silence is a weirdo. It just comes with the territory of being a Vines Lab employee. That said, that set of skills is incredibly useful, with S2 being a good go-to skill for general use, and her S3 being good for, well, more advanced content. Not only that, I do see them tests running Mod Y on her to be a good omen for the class, because it means Hyperglyph is willing to try something more with the class, and I think her talent makes a really good template for what a 6-star Abjurer should be. What else have we learned from the show and tell? Well, Tsukinogi is a perfect example of, not what to do with the class. 9-colored deer needs to be rerun every year. Quercus is an amazing entry point for people who want to get into the class. And Xingzhu is good as long as you don't touch her S2 and in denial about Pure Stream. With everything I just said, though, I don't think anything I said has probably sold you on the class, which is fair. To most normal people, they don't want to play with arbitrary self-imposed restrictions, so they will take the easiest route possible. Abjurers are cool for those who want to challenge themselves, but you will always be better served by a medic, which is why I call Abjurers the Hipsters Incarnation medic. They're just a reskin of a more straightforward class, and while they do have the advantage of being able to heal without the need of enemies, Incarnation medics are just better DPSs and healers than Abjurers. Also doesn't help that their 6-star is Reed, which is just a nuker pretending to be a healer, and our 6-star is actually well designed and well thought out operator. Although I can't say that, I have a Reed, so yikes. Still, I believe Abjure is on the right track at last. If Xingzhu and Mod Y can be used as indicators, I think they represent a future where Abjures can be a viable alternative to medics, where they aren't labeled as worse medics, but rather medics for those who want something different and think all it will take is adding another, well, gacha Abjure to the pool to initiate that perspective shift in the community. Ah, fuck, that actually happened. This will be quick since she's CN only right now, so I can go by what her wiki page has to say when it comes to gauging my personal feelings on her. Don't worry, when she actually comes out, I'll give you a proper review of my feelings for her, but right now, we're just going based on what I have seen and heard. I had a few months to think about this, but my thoughts haven't really changed since what I've seen what she has done. Mixed. For me, it's the mixing of healing and DPS that makes me apprehensive. For me, what makes an Abjurer is the clear division between healing and damage, something reinforced by the skills. This is why I really like Xingzhu, because it condensed the healing into a short burst so she can focus more on the DPS. Haruka, on the other hand, defies the core identity of the subclass, not only in skill design, but even in talents. For me, she just reads like a more. Well, she reads more like a fucking incarnation medic than a hipster incarnation medic. I also think she's aggressively overtuned, and I'm surprised she isn't the limited unit for this banner because what the fuck are these numbers? 30% Sanctuary, unconditional, is a fucking choice. Sure, it's until the bubble pops, but that bubble pop heals, and with Mod Y, because yes, they did give her the good module for her release, gives her the chance of SP recovery because why not? I also don't like that her S2, her S2 for the same reason I don't like Quercus S1, but now with the added part of why the fuck does this do damage? This is her healing mode. Why is she now just, well, once again, being a fucking incarnation medic? Of course, this is all on paper, and while Quercus committed the same sin by having a skill that incentivizes playing like a single target medic, I still like her. I suspect I'll do the same for Haruka when she comes around because I am a fan of Abjurers, and any attempt to make this class more likable by the general player base is good by me. If Haruka acts as a gateway to other Abjurers for non-fans, then I can only see it as a win. Yes, they kind of sandblasted any possibility of a quirk from her, making the concept of an Abjurer more palatable to the masses, like they did with PP, Logos, Degen, Breach, and so forth. But I can live with that. Especially when her SV wants to work with the Levitate squad, which is a win in my books. Now, all that said, I should end this long ass video so I can take a well deserved rest until Halloween. So, bye.